The topic for this week's episode are our thoughts on boredom and the importance of hobbies, especially in your 20s. My name's Carter. This is Josh, and welcome to Terrible But Great. We want to start each episode by listing a few things that are actually terrible but great.
So, all right, what you got?
First one I said was Costco Express checkout lines. Just think about it. Nobody in their right mind,
That's true.
and I guess I'm not in my right mind because I'll go into Costco and do this, but who's going into Costco for less than 5 items?
You're still paying $150. You know what I mean?
The only person who'd go into Costco and be like, yeah, just one thing. They're buying one of those jacuzzis that's on the freaking display.
Yeah, that's not express checkout.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's like pre-ordered.
Yeah,
I'm picking it up. I've got the entire U-Haul out front. That's not... people having color preferences for no-show socks. Honestly, no, that's just terrible.
Dude, that's actually just terrible. What's great about that, actually, Carter?
Nothing. I was trying to think, maybe...
Dude,
maybe
it's terrible,
maybe they're
but great.
just decisive.
It's terrible,
like
but
they
great.
know what they want.
No.
No one's. You're not even gonna see.
Maybe
that.
the grade is like how it makes you feel on the inside. You know what I mean? Because that's basically the
how it's gonna fall off your heel in 36 steps.
Dude, but it's like people that have like avocados on their no-show socks. For what? It's no-show.
I'm vegan.
Yeah. It's the same person. Hi. Dude, it's the same person that says, before they tell you their name, you know that they're vegan. You know what I mean? You run to them anywhere in. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm vegan. Oh yeah, what's your name? Sorry, what? It's vegan. Vegan. No, your name. Oh. Josh, nice to meet you. It's the same person.
I'd say let's get into this episode.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this episode.
This is such a pivotal point in our lives. There's so many changes going on. And amidst those changes, it can feel really exciting. Let's say that you're, changing jobs or you're moving out of your childhood home. Those are all things that are going to really stimulate you. But once you're then used to your new environments, it can almost feel like there's nothing else going on. Especially if what's taking up most of your time is school or some other mundane task that isn't really sparking a light in you. And then boredom comes from that. And
yeah, we should share our thoughts on that.
Definitely.
For sure. I think being bored is important in some ways.
Yeah.
But I also think it's not a comfortable feeling. You know what I mean?
Far from it.
Who wants to be bored? So I think the only purpose that boredom actually provides is you trying to get out of being bored.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting.
You have to learn how to kickstart yourself.
Right.
And I know for me personally, anytime I've been bored, it allows me to adopt a new way of thinking and looking at situations. It lets me be creative in a new way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I almost have to relearn how to entertain myself.
Right.
Growing up, it may have been Legos and video games and whatever else. And now I find that it's more exploratory and going outside and finding new places that I didn't know existed. I've been in Los Angeles my entire life. And now I'm making it a really, really big point to go out and reintroduce myself to the place I grew up in as an adult rather than as a kid. And that's one thing that really alleviates a lot of boredom. But it stimulates me in a way that lets me be creative as well.
What's actually really interesting is what you said when you're younger, how you're saying you'd like to do video games or Legos or something like that, and now it's more exploratory. I feel like curing boredom, you're not going to cure that with something like video games. You're not going to cure that with something like Legos. It's a temporary fix. You know what I mean? And that's something that's perfect for a kid. But we're talking about curing boredom as an adult, you need something that's going to fulfill you long term. Yeah. Something that you won't ever get bored of. Something that you want to keep growing at. Something that keeps life interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you buy the Lego's done. You got to go buy another Lego.
Yeah.
you know, and then after a while that gets old. Or like you complete the 40-hour storyline in Red Dead 2 or whatever. You know what I mean?
You're like,
and
great.
You're like, great. Like, what do I do? Like, online? Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna play online. You know what I'm saying? So you need something like a fulfilling career or like a fulfilling hobby that you can grow at.
Yeah.
Like,
something that
yeah.
really sparks your curiosity.
Yeah.
What's something that you can always find pockets in that will just go deeper and deeper and deeper?
Right.
Like, for me, that will always be music, because I can always find something new.
Right.
There's always another melody or some other nuance that I can create.
That creates more infinite possibilities, I think.
Definitely. What's a time that you've just been bored out of your mind? Like,
dude, I honestly feel like
it's watch paint dry bored.
I feel like it's been so long. Honestly, it's really been so long. I think we were just talking about this too.
That's really cool.
You know what I mean? It's like, I almost can't remember the last time I was just straight up bored. Like, what do I do with myself? But I'm lucky in terms of that I have a lot of interests, you know, and a lot of things that I want to do. But like I feel like I've trained my brain to naturally, like if I'm bored, it's like, oh my God, okay, what's this next idea?
Right.
What's the next thing I want to do? Listening to other people, watching YouTube, like all that helps. I don't know, can you think of the last time you were just straight up bored?
Where I had nothing that I could think of that would actually
like satisfy
bring me out of that boredom. It's been a very long time, but I will force myself to do nothing, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, I'll put it in my calendar, nothing.
But is that boredom? Is that boredom?
No, because it's borderline.
Because you're always doing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I know about you, man. You're always going.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're doing nothing, like, you need that.
Yeah. Like, people be like, oh, what are you doing right now? I'd be like, nothing. They'd be like, oh, we should do it. No. I said I was doing nothing. I meant nothing. I'm sitting at home doing nothing.
Sometimes you just need to recharge.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you really do.
And sometimes I recharge by going out and being really social. It's all a balance. You got to know what environments will recharge you in certain periods of time.
Mm.
And that's where hobbies really come into play.
Mm.
Because for me, as much as I love music, and I'd like to say music loves me, there are times where I'm like, this is work. This is definitely work. And I want to invest my time in an area of my life that has nothing to do with my career and income, nothing. It's just fun. Like,
but I feel like, you know, it's I think this is something you and I have in common. It's almost like a blessing and a curse, but we have, like, I think just from what we thought, like, you're starting to make candles, and you're starting to do all these kind of things. We always think, like, you know, how can we sell, like, for example, sell the candles, or like we should start like live streaming or start this podcast. You know what I mean? Like, we're always, even though we're like, we need something away from work.
Yeah.
We get so invested. And also we get so invested in it that we want to like make it work.
I just think our brains also just naturally go to that place where we're like, how can we make this almost pay for itself?
Right.
I love doing this, but it would be awesome to like have an income from just
doing
what I love to do.
And I think that's one of the most important things in life, is just not being afraid to take risks. How long have we been talking about this podcast, Carter?
Definitely, like
what?
Year and a half.
A year and a half, or maybe almost 2 years. Like, since we met, I think we had the idea for this podcast.
Yeah.
Here we are. We did it. Part of me, like, now doing it wishes we did this like a year ago. You can't live life like that.
No, the best time to plant a tree was 40 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. So, you know, here's today. The time I've experienced boredom, just sheer boredom, like I said, watch paint dry boredom, was as a kid. And I think part of it comes from lack of autonomy. If you think about it, when you're younger, you generally don't have a car or a means to leave the house on your own. Short of you being in a major city and parents that are okay with you going out in that kind of capacity, you're generally stuck at home. You don't have your own source of income, so you can't freely spend on random things that may bring you joy and entertainment for periods of time. And most of your waking hours are spent at school, whether you want to be there or not, unless you're homeschooled, but that's a pretty small portion, at least of people in the US. It's easy to find yourself bored if you're not already thrust into some extracurricular activity where right after school you're in band practice or sports practices, and
you got to rely on your imagination.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the most important parts about being young, is using your imagination and learning how to use it.
Yeah.
Because that goes away as you get older. If you let it.
It can.
If you let it, it goes away.
Use it or lose it, for sure.
It's one of those things.
For sure.
You know what I mean? You have to practice using your imagination, which sounds funny, but like, I would love to play pretend in real life. I remember being a kid and playing with a friend, and you're like, okay, now pretend that we can fly. Other stuff like that.
I'd say, why can't you?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, pretend we make a podcast and we make money from it, and it's our job. That's how real life is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's imagination is so close to songwriting and the journey it takes to make a good song. I know we've talked about it, where you write 4 songs, and out of those 4 songs, maybe one of the verses is actually good. So then you scrap everything else and you just take that verse and then you build on it to make another song. And you're like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Right. But you had to write those 4 songs.
Exactly, to get to that one verse that mattered. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what imagination and creativity and boredom is. You may not be bored just one day and go, oh, I had this amazing idea because I was really just focused on how do I get out of this boredom, and you come up with something great. There's some times where you're just bored and you fall asleep, and then you wake up the next day and you have the rest of your life going. And then some days it just hits you. Boredom is definitely really, really closely related. This is from the psychologist John Eastwood of York University from Toronto. This was off of the American Psychological Association. There's strong correlation between boredom being a risk factor for depression. It's not directly related, but they've noticed a lot of similarities in what fires in the brain around the two feelings. So,
well, that's the thing about boredom. That's a really good point, because I feel like at least when I'm bored, it's like this, when I can, because I know the feeling of being bored. You know what I will say? I know that feeling. It feels like you can't escape it. It feels like nothing I do right now is going to satisfy this boredness. Because also part of being bored is like, I know what I could do, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, even if you had a car, you can go out in the city. It's like, sometimes it's like, I don't even want to.
Yeah.
But why am I bored?
Especially in a city like this. You step outside in the car and you're already just yelling at people who are driving really awful.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will sit at home and just be like, I'm not going out because I just don't have the energy to.
I don't want to almost get in a car accident right now.
Like I'll be like, I'll definitely go somewhere if somebody picks me up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this.
But that's also the other thing about like today's society that's really interesting is we are trying to kill boredom. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like with like Netflix and
For
YouTube.
Sure.
I mean, do you think boredom is something that should be killed?
I don't think so. I think boredom is a necessary part of our existence as humans. I think we've been given this really, really cool ability to think and conjure up these great inventions. And usually it comes from necessity, and sometimes it comes out of boredom. Some people just look at something and go, I wonder if that could do all these other things. Like if I was looking at this crystal here and you go, I wonder if this can be a power source, right? And if I'm somebody with the means to go and create some sort of machine that could convert whatever frequency this resonates at into some renewable source of energy, now I've gone from being bored to having something that really, really fascinates me. And I'll continue working on it if that's really something that energizes me.
Right.
And without boredom, you're not going to get that. If you're like, if I was sitting in front of every song on the top 100 and only watching every critically acclaimed show that comes up, I wouldn't have time to think about my own ideas or create something that's really original. And if I did sit down to write something after only absorbing that and not paying attention to what's really going on in here, in my mind and just in my heart, I couldn't create something that really resonates with me. I would just be creating a copycat of whatever I've been absorbing.
Right.
And that's all unconscious.
Exactly. Because you are the content you listen to. You know, you are the books you read, you are the people you hang out with. And that's like something I think we've talked about a lot. Is like, make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people who are positive for you, who inspire you, who make you think about things differently. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Who inspire conversations that are really important, because if you're in that feedback loop, you start to just sound like everybody else. And that's not what we're put on the planet for.
You're just going straight NPC.
Yeah. Seriously. And you don't even realize it.
No.
You don't even realize it. You don't even realize the habits that you pick up from other people. You don't. Or which shoe that you tie first.
Yeah. I actually started making it a conscious effort to pay attention to what I do. So now I think for a year and 6.5 months, when I put my socks on, it's always my left first. And then when
Are you lefty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't been paying attention to the shoes, but I know for the socks I pay attention to. I always put my left sock on first.
Or check like which leg you put through the pant hole.
Yeah.
Or how you put on your t-shirt. You know what I've been thinking about recently is like the first word I say in the morning, which is kind of interesting. But I found that I actually have better days when my first words are just something a little bit more meaningful or productive. I can't really explain it. Who I'm talking to, what I'm saying, which is kind of an interesting thing to think about.
It makes sense, but I'm definitely going to start paying attention.
I just feel like it like sets up my day.
Absolutely.
The first words that I say. And if I know that there's no one I can say specific words to, or if it's even me just sitting there meditating, and I'll say it to myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I will set up my day. Today's going to be amazing. Today I'm going to feel great. Today's going to be really productive. And you can just say that to yourself. Get up out of bed and be like, today's going to be amazing.
That would be another topic for another episode. Just like micro habits that set you up for success.
And that's the thing. I agree with you. No one can take that away from you. No one can take away what your first words are of the day and what your last words are of the day. You have that. You have that power.
Yeah, everybody try that. When you wake up, make sure that you're saying something that's meaningful to you and that inspires you and makes you want to push forward. And when you're going to sleep, do the same thing. Do that for a month. Do that for 30 days. And just see how your mental attitude just changes towards life. I know I haven't been as vigilant in that, but I meditate right when I wake up. So I get a similar feeling where when I take that final breath before I open my eyes, when I'm done with my meditation, I do feel changed. I feel like I'm ready to attack the day. It doesn't matter if I'm on 3 hours of sleep or 8.5. When I finish that meditation and I open my eyes, I feel energized. I'm ready.
Yeah. You're calibrating your brain for the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So when you're bored, meditate.
I feel like everyone says, meditate, but it really does something.
It does.
It really does something. And you know what? Even if it does nothing, that's almost just as good.
It's about the consistency in it. I will say there's times where I will be meditating and I'll open one eye and I'll just be like, I'm bored as hell. There's nothing going on. And then the next few days I'll have meditations where my mind just doesn't stop racing. And I realized that session where I was really bored and there was nothing going through my mind, I was like, that's it. That's what I was going for.
Well, you want to be grateful for those moments too, you know what I mean? Like, for example, boredom only exists so that super busyness and productiveness and feeling good exists. Because you wouldn't really know the difference between those feelings if the two polar opposites didn't exist. Right. So it does serve a purpose in that way.
Absolutely.
And you always want what you don't have. You know what I mean? Like, when you have those meditation sessions and you're like, or you're super bored, and then you're like, God, like, this is terrible. But then when your mind's racing, you're like, God, this is terrible.
So then maybe the real shift is just like when you're waking up and going to sleep. When you have those moments where you're really bored, shifting it to going, I've been given this opportunity to just think and ruminate. And even though that same psychologist, John Eastwood, he said that boredom, if prolonged, can lead to a destructive ruminative cycle. Essentially, you're just overthinking over and over and over. But if you had the same spiral but rooted in gratitude, how much stronger would your life force be?
Right.
I think that would be awesome.
You're right.
Instead of spiraling downwards, spiral upwards. Just root it in gratitude rather than going, oh, I'm so upset that I'm bored or I have nothing going on.
Count your blessings, not your curses, you know? That's also a habit, and that's something we can say for the other episode, but waking up and counting your blessings instead of your curses. Yeah. I got this and my leg hurts and I'm really tired and I didn't get enough sleep last night and I ate really badly yesterday. Yeah. No. I wake up, I have the opportunity to eat healthy. Yeah. I have the opportunity to take care of myself. I have the opportunity to breathe clean air. Yeah. I have the opportunity to sit here and meditate. And like you're saying, I think it's also leaving room for boredom. Yeah. Or your calendar, your nothingness. You know? leave room for that.
Yeah. Definitely. Waking up and going to sleep. First and last words of the day.
Yeah.
Just paying attention to that.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
If you think about it. Yeah.
I think it would be really, really interesting to just start a journal where it's only the first and last word, where you just date the page, and on the like top left of the page is your first word, and on the bottom right is your last word, and then you flip the page and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And just because then you can look back and go, what was I really doing?
Exactly. And I know people are really going to be like, oh, my first words are good morning or my last words are good night. I get that. But like
the
right
first
back.
word, what word that is out of routine comes to you?
And also, let's kind of switch up that good morning, good night thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we know it's morning, we know it's night. I get it's a common courtesy. I understand that, but
if you're looking at your girl that's right next to you in bed, maybe say like, wow. You know, like,
I did not expect you to say that. I did not expect you to say that.
No, like
but
just
you could
switch
wake
it
up. You could wake up, take a deep breath, and be like, "Wow." You could really be like, you know,
exactly.
Like, no, just don't.
You could go Jar Jar Binks on him.
Yeah, but
you could say, "Miss, I love you."
But seriously, what tone does that set for the day?
Yeah.
If you do something hilarious in the morning,
right? You're gonna start your day with laughter. That's the best thing ever.
Yeah, you know, I was just talking to somebody, and they were telling me like, be the person that you want to interact with. And I think that's actually huge. You know, if I were like to go anywhere and I was going to meet some random person, and I think they were awesome, what would I want them to be like?
Yeah.
Be that person.
This episode is really about mentality.
It really is about mentality. You know?
Yeah.
It really is about mentality.
So I started like a go-karting league with some friends to raise money for charity, just because I was like, I love racing, and I want to make new friends. And making friends as an adult is way harder than making friends as a kid. Especially if you're not in shared spaces all the time. Like for me, I'm not in college. I don't have like a common room or a roommate or a quad where I'm just running into people that are, you know, same age, same, you know, area of life. So I'm going out and I'm chatting up anybody that I think I would really, really enjoy spending time with, and I'll find what we have in common. And sometimes that's going to places that I really, really enjoy, and finding people that are already in those spaces because I know we already have something in common because we're in the same place.
What was that quote you and I kind of came up with though? Is like, not, the quote is meet people where they are. Basically saying if there's a lot of people somewhere, you're bound to meet someone.
Yeah.
But Carter and I came up with like a revision to that quote, which is meet people where you are. What interests you? You know, are you interested in being in a go-kart league? Okay, go to a go-kart league. Yeah. Or like, are you interested in painting, pottery, tennis?
Go to a class. Like, I know that I'm super, super interested in cooking, but I've never made the time to just cook for fun. I'm usually just cooking because I need food. But I know Sur La Table offers classes.
They really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We should do that.
Yeah.
We should just go to a Sur La Table cooking class.
Yo, I'll teach the Sur La Table cooking class.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Everybody grab your 8-inch skillet.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
Start teaching it like it's a beatdown.
Yeah. I think hobbies are critical. They're almost like another form of meditation for me, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What are some hobbies that you've found just really excite you? They have almost nothing to do with anything that... If people are going to look at you and they'll be like, oh, yeah, Josh, music and, you know, entrepreneurship, blah, blah, blah. Oh. And then you're just like, oh, but I do this, too. Like, this other thing, I love this.
That's actually a really good question. That's a really good question. I feel like a lot of that stuff is actually centered around that. I mean, I would say tennis, maybe, but that's still working out and, like, a part of that whole thing. What would you say?
Newly, managing to not kill my houseplant. I just got a fern, bro. Okay, so
you got a fern?
Yeah. So honestly, the only reason I got the fern was because I was texting this girl on Raya, right? And can I even say, like, talk about it openly? I don't know. Dating app, if I can, I'll figure it out.
I think you can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was talking to this girl on Raya, and she was like this extremely successful plant mom, like. I'm telling you, like she had.
What does that even mean?
Like she just had like thriving plants, and it was really attractive. So I was like, oh, need that. So I was like, hey, can you teach me how to save my fern that at the time didn't exist? So I'm straight
Prefer
up,
that I'm about to go by.
straight up
Yeah.
capping, right? And she's like, "Oh yes, like let me see her. I'll take a good look, and we'll help her out." I was like, "Oh man."
So you got the fern.
So I went and got the fern. Never heard from her again.
Oh.
So I got this fern.
Well, that's why. Well, you got a new fern.
Yeah, I got a new fern. I love and cherish this fern. I don't have a name for it yet. I don't know if it's gonna be a boy, a girl, whatever.
You can let it decide.
It can decide.
It can
yeah,
decide.
If
It'll tell you.
If it sprouts a little,
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll tell you.
Yeah.
It'll tell you what it is.
But maybe it's like Francis,
Yeah, I like that.
like the ladybug from Bug's Life.
I feel like croissant would be a cool name for a plant.
Croissant. Maybe that's gonna be its name, croissant. But
Sick.
spelled like CWO.
Croissant.
Croissant.
I kind of like it.
We can vote. We can vote.
One thing I was so into for a while was like solving Rubik's cubes and trying to get really fast at it.
Yeah.
So not only learning how to solve it, like I remember being in PE, like at the end of high school, and I would like hang out with all the kids that like did Rubik's cubes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they would all get it done in like 45 seconds, and I was always stuck at like 2 minutes, and I would spend hours and hours, and that was like a hobby for me.
Yeah.
That was really a hobby for me, like learning how to solve the Rubik's cube fast. I feel like it's something you don't know, like would expect.
I've never solved the Rubik's Cube.
I'll teach you.
I've solved the Rubik's Sphere.
What's that?
It was like this weird, like, I guess Rubik's, the company, just got bored of making Rubik's Cubes, and they were like, let's make it a circle.
Oh, those are so difficult.
But it wasn't the same mechanism. It was like...
Yeah, it's like different. I know
you
what you're
had
talking about.
these like little plastic balls in this inner circle, and there's 3 layers of circles, and you had to like spin the ball and get it through these holes in these inner circles, and then somehow get it into this like the matching color socket. Oh, bro, I had that shit.
Sounds terrible.
I had it down.
Wow.
But the cube, never.
Dude, I was so into the cube, man. I spent $30 on a Rubik's cube one time.
Really?
It was all lubed and like this had special colors, like everything. I was really into it.
Damn.
Yeah, you can go hard. Get a lubed cube. I'm serious, it'll change your life. I'm actually not
You
kidding.
can go hard with the lubed cube, bro?
Dude, you can go so much faster. You go so much faster. It's actually unbelievable. For anyone that solves Rubik's cubes. That's the secret. I'm telling you. That's how they get it done. And make sure you buy lube for the cube because the lube will run out. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
No! No! Terrible!
Terrible. See, that's
Great.
when it's terrible, but great.
Yeah.
Rubik's cube lube.
Rubik's. So what's in your shopping cart, Joshy? Oh, just lube for my Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, that's one thing you won't know about me is that I have Rubik's cube lube in my Amazon shopping cart. Literally.
That would be a cool segment, doing a terrible but great Amazon shopping list.
You know that would be a good segment, right?
Yeah, when we only put in like really random
randoms.
objects that are just terrible. But you're like,
But great.
You can use it. You can definitely find a use.
I just want to say thank you. Honestly, this was our first podcast. We're super excited about filming it.
Yeah.
And this has been something we've thought about doing for like 2 years.
Yeah, long time coming, and I'm glad that we're finally here. And
It's the first of many to come.
definitely, it's gonna be a journey. So anybody who's watching and listening, whatever platform you're, taking in our content, thank you for watching. If you got to this point,
Leave a like.
Yeah, leave a like if you're watching it on YouTube. Share it.
Add
If
it.
you're listening on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite pods, just rate us 5 stars. It helps the podcast grow, and we're gonna grow not only as people but as creators. So thank you for joining us on this really, really wonderful journey that can be terrible.
Well, I hope this was more great than terrible. But...
Definitely. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys
for watching.
Yeah. Peace.